something happening here. But what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there.
The 1960s, a period of time of new celebrities, fangirls, the new introduced technology, and a time of fashion. The Beatles at the time were the top celebrities and created a new version of rock and pop. This was the time of the assassination of JFK, later accepting President Lyndon B. Johnson as president. During this influential time, there was poverty and hunger throughout the nation. To help those in poverty, Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Food Stamp Act of 1964, which provided levels of nutrition among low-income households through a cooperative federal state program of food assistance. This generation sparked the new and exciting time of Woodstock and the new rebellious groups of teens, widely known as hippies. During this time, a war was being fought overseas in Vietnam, costing thousands of lives and caused the need for a U.S. draft. U.S. citizens rebelled and supported the anti-war movement in hopes to stop the draft and the pointless war outside of the U.S. U.S. citizens asked themselves, why was so much money and so many troops being sent over to Vietnam when there were problems in the U.S.? President Lyndon B. Johnson during this time had to make a hard choice. Should we send troops to Vietnam or battle the war on poverty within the U.S.?
The United States, as the world knows, will never start a war. We do not want a war. We do not now expect a war. This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. In God, I know I'm one.
Meanwhile, there were problems in the U.S. facing poverty. A deadly and horrific war was being fought overseas. Vietnam soldiers faced the worst conditions and death every day while living and fighting in Vietnam. Vietnamese soldiers fought long and hard and incorporated many new guerrilla warfare techniques in order to fight back against the large U.S. Army. Many soldiers left this battle facing depression or alcoholism from the terrible conditions while fighting in Vietnam. Millions upon billions of dollars were sent to contribute to this war. Many U.S. citizens wondered why we fought in the war, because it was for no beneficial gain. The Vietnam War started on November 1st, 1955 and lasted until April 30th, 1975, which is roughly about 20 years, or 19 years, 180 days.
Tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun.
During this time, President Johnson faced a lot of backlash for sending so many troops over to Vietnam. He had to face conflict within the country and outside of the country. President Johnson felt pressured to keep sending troops to Vietnam to finish the war that he indulged them in. He invested all the money into Vietnam and left some money for the U.S.
Above us only sky. Imagine all the people.
After a very long and hard battle, soldiers came home to the great country which they had fought long and hard for.
Imagine there's no country that isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for.
President Johnson had made a very hard choice, which changed the future and the mindsets of Americans to come.
Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not.
American pride was written all over the returning troops' faces. They were excited to be with their loved ones again.
And the world will be one. Imagine no possessions.
The long and terrible war had split the nation, but also brought the nation together. Did President Johnson make the right choice?
A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not.